Text message quickly here from Brenda at 204-780-6868. Hal, my son is afraid to wait for his connecting bus at Polo Park after work at night between midnight and 1 a.m. because the bus shelter is occupied by the homeless. So he hikes over the St. James Bridge to our street toward Grosvenor in blizzard winds many times. Minus 35, minus 40, doesn't matter. He does it every night since November. Why is this allowed? Well, Brenda, we're going to get into a conversation right now about homelessness and bus shelters and what do we do about both of those issues. Kevin Klein is the city councilor for Charleswood, Tuxedo, and Westwood. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Hal. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for doing this. Brenda brings up a good point. I hear this from a lot of people, and you recently asked for a special meeting on transit and bus shelter safety. Any response yet? I think that was Matt Allard, right? He's the chair of that committee.
Right. So they put a motion forward yesterday to have there's this committee that is made up of some residents and others to talk about transit overall. So I think they sent something to them to look at. They're considering putting in the motion my letter, on the agenda for the next meeting. So it'll be another month or so before it actually gets there. But the motion they put forward was to have I think the public engagement office do some surveys. And I appreciate that, but it's not enough.
Right. And I think there reaches a point, too, where we don't really need to do a survey. I mean, you hear enough from enough people that you know that there is an issue here. And so what do you say to people in your ward like Brenda when they say, hey, listen, I've got a problem with this when it comes to bus shelters and the bus shelters being used by the homeless?
Well, I hear them, and I get those same calls, and I do hear comments like that, and I tell people that, we as a government have to stop ignoring the problem. We have to take some action on this, and we have to work together with stakeholders, and we have to start hearing solutions. We sometimes never listen to all the various solutions and try to pick one that works for Winnipeg, or maybe it's a little bit from each solution from different jurisdictions that helps address this. But we seem to be ignoring it. I've heard, many times people on council, my colleagues, the mayor, would refer, well, it's a provincial problem. Well, if it's a provincial problem, let's sit down and work on this together. But I think it's a community problem. It doesn't matter to me what level government fixes it. Doesn't matter to me whose name fixes it. But we're not doing anything about it. We're not taking any action. That's the problem I have.
And I think it's one issue, at least, and there are many issues where I don't think enough is happening, but it's one issue that, to me, is a glaring example of we're failing. We're not dealing with homelessness in this community, not in an effective way.
No, I would agree with that. I think we're failing. I know I heard some stakeholders previously on CJOB talk about how less people are living or taking up residence in bus shelters, and more people are there's other options for people to go to, but it's still not fixed. Calls for service to bus shelters have dramatically increased for our first responders. The amount of crimes occurring on buses, minor and not minor, that you and I are not hearing about, these are continuing to happen. So we can't simply step back and say, well, we're doing what we can and it's getting better, because I don't see any tangible plan to make it safe for everyone. And when I say that, I don't think it's safe for people to spend the night in a bus shelter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to talk with Al Weeb. I have him on my show quite often. He was at one point homeless, and now he's a homelessness advocate, and so I'm going to talk with him about this part of it. And some people will say, well, why are homeless in bus shelters? There are spaces for them. It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, they don't want to be in those spaces, and they're in bus shelters, and so the problem continues.
Right, and there are various reasons. My story, Hal. I had to stay in a shelter once because of what the stuff our family was going through, and that. Yep. There's a lot of reasons why people are homeless. And we can't judge or paint everybody with one brush. But if we know that that's a problem, that they don't want to go to certain places where they don't feel safe or whatever, well, let's address that. Let's have that conversation and see what we can do. How can we help? We have a lot of property. We have empty buildings, the city of Winnipeg. Why aren't we asking for a request for proposals to say we have space here, here, and here, and we want some people or an organization to go in there and help our residents that are experiencing the most difficult time of their life right now? We're not doing that. We're not going to the province saying, hey, if we put up the property and we put up a building, can you put up some money? We're not having those conversations. And I'm sure Minister Squires would be happy to have those conversations, and I would love to talk to her about that, because I think we can no longer talk about it. We have to start implementing solutions now. And that's why it's so important to do it now. Waiting a month or waiting 3 months for an online engagement survey, that's not addressing the problem. That's ignoring it. And it's not going to go away if we continue to ignore it.